Hello, hello. Welcome to Media Queen TV. Now, out of the 1,000 or so interviews I've done, I'd say this is one that I am going to be absolutely treasuring for life. I've never, ever before in my 49 years on the planet ever interviewed my father on Media Queen TV. And today we're going to be sharing part of his amazing story. We've actually called this The Miracles of Life because he has such an extraordinary life. In fact, my father is the most inspiring person I know. He has survived 4 heart attacks, prostate cancer, diabetes. Just in the last 2 months, he was in hospital twice in a month for pulmonary edema, which is where you have fluid in the lungs. And life is so precious. And I'm so grateful that Dad just hopped on board and he said, yeah, let's do this video. He actually thought I was going to be pre-recording it. And it's so beautiful that we're going live to you. So I really, really hope that you enjoy this episode and you get something for yourself from these amazing learnings. Now, my father is based in Bribie Island nowadays. He's been married to my beautiful mum, Nellie. She is here for 53 years this year. They are the most extraordinary couple, and I'm so blessed to have them as parents. And I might get a bit emotional this episode. I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful for my life. And my dad and I, we've had our ups and downs, haven't we, Dad, over the years? We've definitely had some ups and downs. However, you know, we are so close now, and thank goodness for all the personal development work I've done over the years, and for, I guess, for my love in my heart that I have from my family that has helped bring us to this point. So welcome to the show, Dad.
Thank you. Well, I would like to summarize my life a little bit to you, and I will explain every time what kind of miracles happen in my life. It is obvious God has a plan for me, and eventually every time he paved the way for me. Now, first, my mother married somebody with the name of Lambro-Limnos. She was 15 years old, and Lambro-Limnos was 35 years old. He was a Greek Orthodox. And after my mother gave birth to my elder brother, her husband gets sick and he died. At the time, my brother was only 9 months old. And then was a widow, and my mother was an illiterate woman. We were living under poverty line. And so she didn't have really much opportunity. But then my father was a Ukrainian, and he ran away from Ukraine. At the time, it was Soviet Union, and he ran away. But before he ran away, he was married with 2 children. And also there was famine in Ukraine. So when communists killed my grandmother and grandfather because they are rich people, and they will start planning to kill my father because he was complaining about what they have done to his parents. And his friends told him, Ivan, run away, otherwise they will hang you. So he had 2 choices, either run away to save his life or stay with his wife and children and to be hanged. Eventually, he ran away, and first he went to Odessa. From there, he came to Turkey. He settled in a city at the time called Alexandretta. This Hatay and Alexandretta was under French jurisdiction. And, well, at that time, he never said that he was married. Everybody thought he was single. And eventually a matchmaker did the job, and my mother and father get married. And I was born 1 year after that in 1938. And soon after that, my mother and father couldn't understand each other because one of them can speak only Russian and Ukrainian, hardly any Turkish. My mother can speak Turkish, Greek, and Arabic. So their marriage didn't last long, and my mother divorced him. But soon after that, there was a big friction between all West countries and communist Soviet Union. And that is why the Turks hate the people who come from Soviet Union. So what they did, they pick up my father and they send him to another city, force him to live there. And they didn't tell us where did they send him. So under the circumstances, I have to grow up without father. My mother was an illiterate woman. We were under poverty line. And also we were living in a 99% Muslim country and we were Christian. So under the circumstances, really it was difficult even to survive. But God has a plan for me. I didn't know at the time. When I grow up, become 6 years old, the time come to go to primary school. But because my mother is an illiterate woman, she was not really thinking to send me to the primary school. So then she realized that when she wants to send a letter to somebody, she has to ask someone to write a letter for her. And at that time, the military service was compulsory. My mother said she will send me to primary school in order, when I go to military service, I can write my own letter rather than asking somebody to write a letter for me. I start the primary school, and every year I start become the best in the class. 5 years passed, and I was locked off the school. When I finished, there was no opportunity or plan or anything for me to go to high school or anything else. But then a miracle happened. One of my teachers came and talked to my mother specifically. He said, this boy is very talented, so please send him to high school or something like that. Eventually, my mother decided to send me, but there was in our city only 2 high school, middle part of it. One of them called high school, the other one vocational high school. In vocational high school, they teach us to be carpenter or something, some sort of profession. But what happened, when I was 1 year old, the Second World War started. And Germany attacked France and went all the way to Paris. And now, although Hatay and Alexandria was under French jurisdiction, but Turkey knew that if they come in and get this area, nobody is going to oppose them. And they did. Eventually, they changed the name of Alexandria into Iskenderun. And also, because I was born in Iskenderun, they give Turkish citizenship to me, to my brother, and to my mother. But they refused to give Turkish citizenship to my father. Anyway, I was 12 years old, and my mother come and asked me, which school do you want me to send? High school or vocational high school? I said to myself, if I go to high school, then I go to the year 11, 12, then I go to the university. We have no opportunity, nothing. It is impossible for me to achieve. So I said I should go to vocational high school. I can learn a profession and I will not stay hungry. And eventually I started going to vocational high school. I studied 3 years and I finished very successfully. Again, there was no hope to study any further. Then in the month of August, my brother came with a newspaper in his hand. He said, look, at the time the prime minister was Adnan Menderes, he knew law. Anybody who finished the high school will go to compulsory military service and he will be officer rather than a soldier. Well, we said, yeah, this is a good thing. Let's go to Antioch and study another 2 years and become officer when I go to military service. And at the time, this was a miracle, really. And then my mother find a job, my brother find a job. He started earning 200 Turkish lira a month. And I needed $50 a month to study in Antioch. So eventually this worked out all right. I finished the high school. I started working. And then my brother went to the military service. So under the circumstances, I have to work and look after my mother, and I have to earn enough not to stay hungry. So 3 years passed, and my brother was nearly coming back from the military service. And then one Saturday or Sunday, I think, I went to the seaside because people from Iskenderun always like on Sunday to go at the seaside, fresh air and see the sea, etc. And I saw one of very old friend from the high school. His name was Kazım Kılıç. Well, I asked him, Kazım, I haven't seen you for 3 years. Where were you? He said, I was studying in Yıldız Technical University. Oh my God. And what are you going to be? He said, I'm going to be civil engineer. I said for myself, in the high school, I was better than him. He is going to be a civil engineer. I'll be a little carpenter all my life. I start getting a little bit jealous, really. And then I asked him, if I like to go to this uni, will they accept me? He said, of course they will, but with the condition you have to win the examination, entry examination. Well, all right. About 3 years, I didn't study mathematics or anything like that. So I was determined to go and study in the uni. But then my brother came from the military service. And then I entered examination of 2 TAFEs and 2 university entry examination. I failed from all of them because really I wasn't ready to go to uni. And I didn't study hard in year 11 and 12. All I wanted to do to finish the high school, that's all. And now, after I failed from all this examination, on Monday I have to go to start working again. And then on Saturday I said, let me go to the seaside and get a fresh air. Then I have seen another one of old friend called Mehmet Abacı. I told him that I failed miserably. He said, they offer a TAFE in Adana, 1,000 kilometers from Iskenderun. Do you know that? I said, no. He said, tomorrow is the last day for enrollment. I said, my God. I get the train 6 o'clock in the morning. At 9 o'clock I was in Adana, and I make the
examination.
I make the enrollment just 5 minutes to 12.
Oh, 5 minutes.
But really, this was another miracle. And then in this, on Monday, I went again for examination. 2 kind of vocational high school is going to there. One of them studying the construction, and I studied only furniture. Anybody study in my vocational high school has to take entry examination. The others can get in easily. And then 36 people took the examination. Only 6 won, and I was one of them. Oh my God, I said, if I won that, then I can win the university as well. And it was TAFE, evening TAFE. So I start studying, and I find a job during the day. And I studied 2 years, and every year I was the best in the class. I was nearly finishing the 2nd year, and a new law come about. Institute of Engineers put pressure on the government, and they get a lot of rights, which people who studied in this lower class will not be able to do it anymore. Only the engineers will be able to do it. So really, it was another miracle. I said, just bugger, I have to go into entry examination to Yıldız Technical University. Now, there was elimination examination. There was entry examination. 30,000 people entered elimination examination. 20,000 is eliminated.
Wow.
10,000 left to entry examination, and they will get only 350 students.
Wow.
Well, I really tried very hard, and I took the examination. In order to get into civil engineering, I have to get into first 50.
Wow.
And surprise, surprise, I did.
Amazing.
And I started working, studying in the Yıldız Technical University. But at that time, another miracle happened. My brother found a well-paid job in the city of Mersin. And he was able to send me 300 Turkish lira a month. So this was fantastic. I studied 2 years like that. Every school holidays, I come back to Mersin to see my mother, etc. And after 2 years, before I started the third years, my brother lost his job. And then he cannot send me any money. And I am studying full time. It was impossible for me to study any further because no money. And eventually I started writing to a few places for a scholarship. And another, I was lucky, State Hydroworks gave me a scholarship, but it was a strange scholarship. For every year I will study, I have to work with them for 1.5 years to a lower salary from other places. But without that, I cannot finish the uni. So anyway, another miracle, something unexpected happened. And eventually I studied 4 years. In the senior year, I wanted to migrate from Turkey. But where am I going to migrate? I heard my friends apply to Canada. All right, I applied to Canada. Even I was toward the end of my senior year. And then Canadian embassy called me, and the man, as soon as he see me, said, "Okay, your visa is ready." I said, "That's all right, but I didn't do the military service, and they don't give me any passport to go overseas." He said, "Can you live as a student somewhere else?" I said, "Yes, I can do that because I won the student exchange examination. So I was hoping I will get one place in Europe, Dutch or Netherlands or whatever. And then from there I can fly to Canada." But God has a different plan for me. So eventually he didn't want me to go to Canada. What happened? I went, only one place came for me, second place, and this was from Egypt. And I have to go to Munich or München in Germany in order to get my visa and fly to Canada. And I went to Canadian embassy in Cairo. And they looked at me, they said, "I'm sorry, we can send you from Germany, but we cannot send you from Cairo." Because there was Abdel Nasser and all sorts of problems. All right, I didn't have any choice because I didn't have enough money to fly to Germany and from there fly to Canada. So I come back within 1 week, I went to the military service. And then what happened in military service, they sent me to a city called Erzurum. This was near Mount Ararat, 3,000 meters above the sea level. And my God, very cold winter. All my life, I was born and grow on the Mediterranean Sea. In Iskandar, it doesn't even snow. And now I have to go there. The 1.5 years, I did my military service over there. In winter, I have seen first time minus 35 degrees centigrade in Erzurum. Then I said, if I went to Canada, that's what was going to happen. Bugger. I'm not going to Canada anymore. And then after I finished the military service, I was looking for an opportunity to apply to migrate to Australia. But at the time, there was no Australian consulate in Ankara, in Turkey. So I have to wait and watch what is happening. Approximately 1 year later, an embassy is opened, but only 2 people working in it. And then I was very lucky, another miracle happened, and the Turkish engineers of Turkey have a meeting in Ankara, And they said, anyone who wants to go on Adana, we can give him 1 day off to go there and then come back. I said, oh yeah, I will go there. Of course, out there, I'm looking everywhere for Australian embassy. And eventually I find it. I knocked the door, only one person comes out. I said, is it Australian consulate? He said, no, it's an Australian embassy. And I said, look, I'm civil engineer and I want to migrate to Australia. He took me in and he took messages. He said, I will send you an application form within 1 month. And he did. But at the time, because I studied with scholarship, I cannot have my certificate. Only a letter sent to State Hydraulic Works telling that I'm educated, I become civil engineer on black and white.
Uh-huh.
And how can I get that one? Anyway, one of my friend's sister was working in personnel. So I asked him to get one photocopy of it and give it to me. And he did. And eventually I filled the application form, I sent it. But of course, they will send my application form to Australia to recognize my certificate. And then they can give me a visa, permanent visa. Then I can work as an engineer in Australia. Well, of course, it was taking time. And while I was waiting for that, another miracle happened. What happened? I was working in Adana in the head office. They started building a little dam in somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And now my friends told me that engineering chief is going to send me as a control engineer to work over there. But it was middle of nowhere. I didn't want to go. But because I studied with the money I get from State Hydraulic Works, I have no choice. I have to go. So I thought, what should I do? He asked me to go for it. I said, well, I will be gladly go there, but in next month, I'm going to travel to Istanbul and take the entry examination for the master's degree. So if I win the examination, then I have to dump everything and go. He said, all right, if this is the case, I said, somebody else. I said, oh my God. All I said to myself, I will go to Istanbul for 3 weeks. I will go all around, and then I will come back and say that I couldn't win the examination.
All right.
But then when I went there, this is the first year private universities give graduated. And these people has the right to apply to Yıldız Technical University master class. We said for ourselves, we'll study hard, we'll get in, we'll not leave this bugger private school graduates to get into our school. And I really start studying hard, etc. We get the examination, 36 people, but maximum they will get 20 people. But the entry examination is very hard. If less people win the examination, they will open the class with less people. So after the examination, 6 people won the examination, and I was one of them.
Wow.
I said, gee, if I won the examination, why should I study and have master's degree on engineering? All right, but the trouble is, I don't have any money. I pay a little bit, but not much. So it doesn't let me 1 year to go. So I have to find something to earn money. And also it is full-time study. And I have to study very hard. I have to prepare a thesis. And I become laboratory mouse, really, because I did a research on air entraining concrete. So there, fortunately, I have some friends which already become engineers. And they said, when I said I have no money, they said, we can give you a technical responsibility for any building is constructed. And then we give you money for that. And you can get up to 6 buildings like that. I said, gee, and the money I will get was good enough to keep me going.
Mm.
Something unusual happened. And we knew a family. They were living in Silifke, and we were living in Iskenderun. But this girl's father and mother was friend of my father and mother. And they come to Istanbul, and she starts studying in English, what they call it.
English
Anyway.
school?
Anyway, to be English teacher.
Oh, okay.
That's why. And we start going together. Her mother has a long life experience, and she was very clever. She knew that I can prepare good life for her daughter. So she was advising her to come and to get out with me, etc. And at the time, first I didn't hear from Australian embassy, and then I didn't want to kiss her or anything like that, because I said we are two family members' children. If something happened, I don't marry her. I don't want to dirty her. And eventually, she started dating some other man while she was dating me. And she thought I'm stupid. I cannot understand that. Well, I did, of course, but I didn't tell her anything. And then they invite me to her brother's wedding. And just after the wedding, she announced her engagement to this bugger. When she did that, I stand up, I shake both of the hands. I said, I wish you happiness. And I turned my back and walked away. This was the end of it. I was madly in love with her, but my logic told me she doesn't have the potential to make me happy. So, and God didn't want me to marry her. And eventually they come, I studied again, she married, I was in the same city, I didn't go to her wedding or anything. And then in February, there was school holidays. I went to Iskenderun to meet my mother. Suddenly, Nell was very friendly with my mother. And I haven't seen her for 6 years. During this time, she grew up, she became more beautiful, she finished a high school, etc. And my mother advised me to marry her. I said, bugger, why not? The reason she wasn't physically the type I like, because I always loved the blonde, blue eyes, etc. girls. But my wife was black hair and brown eyes and, not very fair skin. But I realized that she has the potential to make me happy. I said, all right, go ahead. And I proposed to her. And anyway, I finished the master's class, we engaged, and then we start planning for, planning. Then I received another letter from Australian embassy. They said, send us your certificates copy. I said, I already sent them. What do they want? I went to Ankara. I asked the embassy, what do they want? They said, they want how many subjects you studied, how many marks I get from every one of them, how many semesters you studied,
Wow.
and also photocopy of your certificate.
Mm-hmm.
But my certificate is with State Hydraulic Works. I went and I asked them, if I want to get my certificate back from you, how much should I pay you? They pay me $5,000. I pay them $9,250, and I get my certificate. I feed them, I send them, but I didn't say anything to them. I didn't tell her anything that I want to go to Australia, etc., because I know she loves her mother, and if I say that, she will not marry me. And eventually, another 3 months passed before we get married, and I received a letter from Australian embassy saying that my permanent visa is ready. Come and get it and go to Australia anytime you like. I said, my God, how am I going to tell this one?
Yeah.
And then I went and talked to her brother, Michael. I said, look, this is what happened. Doesn't matter what, I will go to Australia. And what should I do? He said, "Oh, marry my sister and go together, both of you." Well, he was very clever. But the thing is, how can I get visa for her? Then we went to the government. In Turkey, you marry in the government, then you marry in the church. But I married in the government, so officially she became my wife.
Uh-huh.
So I took her and went to Ankara, and eventually I said, "Look, you give me visa, but I'm married now. I want to take my wife with me." They said, "All right." They did the necessary things. In 3 months' time, her visa came.
Mhm.
And then we rushed to the church. We married. 1 week after we married, we left Iskenderun to Australia.
Amazing.
Anyway, on 27th of August, 1070, we were in Sydney Airport,
1970.
1970.
Yeah.
2 luggage in our hand. We speak only very little English. We know nothing about Australia. We were like 2 fish out of the sea. So we realized that we have to try very hard to adapt to Australia and build up our life, etc. And we did that. Eventually, I find a job in Transfield. This is a big company, do heavy heavy industry work.
Mhm.
And they'll find a work in small things for assembling a few things. And then we start saving as much as we can. And 1 year later, we bought a small house in a place called Lane Cove.
Lane Cove, Sydney.
And it was in a very handy location, but it was a small land and only 2-bedroom and 1 sunroom home. And after we bought the house, Nell became pregnant to your brother. And he was a hairy boy. Oh, she started vomiting, etc. I said to her, "Stop working, stay at home." And she did. We bought the house anyway. So we tried very hard, and Nicholas was born. And after that, 2 years later, you were born in 1974. And we were very happy. And then I wanted to bring my mother and my brother from Germany to migrate to Australia. As a family, we can get together. And anyway, in Germany, they don't like the foreigners, but Australia is different. And eventually, in 1974, end of 74, I sponsored my mother and my brother, and they come. And they come, but my God, my mother and my wife were on each other's throat. And it never get better between them. So anyway, it doesn't matter what, we were continue with that. Then my brother bought a house in Belfield. It was 40 kilometers from us. So all right, then we were going once a month to see my mother or something, and we were living a good life. And of course, we start raising you and your brother to our best ability. Anyway, this continued like that. This was another something unexpected. My mother advised me to marry my wife, and eventually she didn't go well with my wife.
Yeah. They don't get along.
And there wasn't anything I can do about it.
Mm.
Anyway, we continue like that, and until I find another job 2 years later. It was in Maritime Services Board of New South Wales. It was New South Wales state government office. I worked over there 18 and a half years. First 7 years, I worked as a second-class designing engineer. After that, I went to section leader. And I studied on section leader another time. Last 5 years, I work as a project manager. And 18 and a half years later, I was planning to retire at the age of 55. But I was 53 years old. And they had reorganization. 4,000 people was working for that. And they reduced it to 1,200.
Wow.
And they get the jobs I'm doing. They give it to the contractor, and they said you have nothing to do. So so anytime you want, you can get a golden handshake and leave. And I thought they will give me 30 weeks salary for handshake, and 10 weeks salary for long service leave, and another 10 weeks salary for recreation leave. And they will charge me only 1.5% tax for it. Suddenly I realized I will have money which I will earn from her in 2 years in advance.
Wow.
I said, bugger. I resigned, get the holding handshake. And then anyway, after that, me and your mom traveled a lot for 2 years. We went to America and Canada and 8 countries in Europe, England and Scotland, New Zealand and Egypt and Malta, and went to Turkey, etc. So I'm glad I married, I retired early. Because what happened, at the age of 59, I had severe heart attack. And I end up in Prince Charles Hospital. They find 5 severe blockages, and they did the angioplasty, and they saved my life. And they gave me some medication, etc. I keep going with that one for 22 years. And I was feeling all right. Then suddenly they find I have atrial fibrillation. This is another heart problem. So again, in Prince Charles Hospital, they give me one tablet, and it worked for a while, but just 2 months ago, out of the blue, I cannot breathe. And I end up in Kabucha Hospital. They find that my lung is full of water, and there is infection in my lung. They treat me for 4 days, etc. I asked them, what make the water get into my lung? They said, your heart is not working effectively. When this happened, it leaves water in your lung. And they give me 2 medications to drain this water from the lung. So at the moment, I'm still alive and kicking, but because heart is not working strong enough, so I feel tired all the time. And I have to get these 2 medications, and they have side effects. They make me not only very tired, I have to go to pass water every 15 minutes. So anyway, fortunately, I had an appointment from Prince Charles Hospital. They changed one of my medication. And then they said in 5 or 6 weeks' time, they will call me for stress test. And this test might be able to correct the atrial fibrillation. If it does, I will start living a normal life. If not, well, I will be in trouble. Anyway, so far, you have seen all these troubles, one after that, one after that. And I strongly believe in God, because I have seen what He had done with my life. I was nobody. I was somebody, hardly can survive. And now I am civil engineer with master's degree in structural engineering. I migrated to Australia. Now I have a good house and I can stand on my own feet. Now we educated both of our children, both of them finished the uni. And really, we have also 4 grandchildren. See, when I look at that, yes, I tried very hard and I was very clever. But a lot of things was impossible to achieve. But God paved the way. This was His plan. What will happen from now on? I don't know. But I pray to God, it's not what I want, what you want. And you tell me what to do. And I leave everything to your hands. So anyway,
extraordinary
that's
story.
all I have to tell you.
And you had prostate cancer and you had diabetes.
That's right. And I survived this too as well. And I'm still, both of them are under control. The only one not under control is my heart.
Right. So they're going to do shock therapy, apparently.
That's right. If the shock therapy works, then with atrial fibrillation, brain sends signal and the signal come. There is 4 compartments in the heart. It come to the left one. From there, this signal go to the other 3 parts of the heart. But something going wrong. It is not going properly. And that's why heart is not working very well.
Right.
But with this shock therapy, it can change that. It can make the signal coming from the brain going in the same way to the other 3 parts of the heart. Then the heart will work all right. Then God knows how many more years I will live quite comfortable.
Well, a third of people die by the age of 65. So you're doing very well, Dad. At 85 now, we're due to turn 86
next month.
January 16, and I'm turning 50 January 16. An extraordinary life. And to think where you came from, I mean, just to get an idea of the poverty. So Dad's parents were kulaks in the Stalin.
My father's parents,
great-parents,
they were rich landowners.
Yeah.
And the communist revolution, after that, they confiscated all their assets and their money. They were living in a comfortable house because they were rich. One winter day, the communist people come and said, out, because the party needs this house. But it was something minus 20 degrees centigrade outside. They didn't offer any alternative accommodation or anything. If they go out, they will die. They will be frozen. Of course, when they say they refuse to leave the house, they grab both of them and hang them on the tree in front of their house. Of course, my father wasn't there at the time. He was lucky he survived. But he started talking about his displeasure about what the communist people did to his parents. And of course, some people tell the communist people, his friends come and said, Ivan, run away. Otherwise, they will hang you because you talk against the communists. So this is why. Then he ended up in Iskender.
Extraordinary. So when you say they were rich people, the kulaks, so they were farmers basically. They were
in communist regime, it is class of workers. They were enemy of rich people.
Right.
They called them bloodsuckers.
Right.
And eventually there was 800,000, approximately 800,000 kulaks in Russia, and nearly all of them are killed. Stalin said, I will give 1 cow to everyone who killed 1 kulak.
Wow.
Well, anyway, that was Stalin killed more Russians than killed Germans, really.
It's absolutely atrocious to think that happened. And of course, then so this is Dad's grandparents, or my great-grandparents were kulaks in Ukraine that got killed by Stalin's men. And then Dad's dad ran away to Turkey and met your mum, who was Greek.
It was a miracle. My mother and father married, and I was born in Iskender.
Yeah, and the fact that
it was really a miracle.
Well, the thing is, there were 3 children born to that union, right? So you had a brother and a sister. Can you share what happened?
My youngest brother's name was Tony, and he gets some sickness in his intestine. At the age of 1, he died. And my sister was 5 years old, and we went to St. George Church. And my mother was praying inside, and the children were playing in the garden. And the garden was also cemetery. And my sister wore very nice silk clothes. And there was a picture of the dead man, and they put candles burning. She come to watch the picture, and the candles start burning her skirt. And she panicked. Rather than running where the people are, she ran away to the opposite direction of the. And eventually, when they arrived her, she was burned 70%, something like that. She lived only 3 days after that, and she died. And her name was Valentin. So anyway, I was the only one survived, and my brother and I grow together. We never fight each other. We both grow without father. But we always supported each other. We always love and respect one another. Unfortunately, my brother died last year in December in Sydney. So anyway, he has 2 sons now and 6 grandchildren. So God loves him too, really.
It's really an extraordinary life, and the challenges you went through growing up in poverty. Like you said, you had one pair of shoes until the age of 12. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
There's one pair of shoes. And what was your living area like when you were growing up?
Well, we were living in a timber house with 2 rooms. There was no electricity, there was no water, and there was one toilet in the garden. There was no shower or anything like that. So we have to heat water in the bucket, and then you have to go to the toilet and we have to put the water and wash ourselves like that. I mean, it was very, very primitive life, very primitive.
And your mum couldn't read or write, and the only photo that she had of your dad, she chopped the head off the photo, right?
Well, she was very angry with my father after the divorce, and she took all the pictures of my father. She cut them all and threw them away. There was only one picture. My mother and father is sitting, and I was on their knee. So on that one, he didn't want to throw the pictures. He cut the heads only. And this was the only picture of my father.
Wow.
So there was no any picture that I can recognize my father.
And why was she angry with
Well, I
your dad?
don't know really. There was some argument between them because my father wanted as many children as he likes. And my mother said, what's the use to make 12 children when we cannot look after them? So arguments started from here, and both of them were pig-headed. And I believe this is what ended up everything.
And the fact that they'd already lost 2 children out of 3, so she was probably...
Yeah, that wasn't...
Yeah, she was probably
good,
going through a lot of heartache there. Well, it's...
But then soon after that, when Turkish police took my father to another city, now me and my brother has to grow up without father and only with my mother, as I said before. So this was a hopeless start, really.
Yeah.
But end up very good. Thanks him.
Beautiful lady, Marika Limnos, my grandma. We really loved Marika until she died. She was, lovely lady. Well, I always had a great experience with grandma, and she was always great with me. And she died in her 70s, was it?
No, 95. She died. She died in Sydney and buried in Sydney. He migrated from Germany with my brother together at the end of 1974.
And how old was she when she died?
Well, when she died, she was 80 years old.
Oh, 80. Okay.
So
she was 80.
I think she was born in 1915.
Right. Yeah. Right. So she had a fairly good life. She,
Well, she worked very hard, and she really supported us with everything. And she was a very good mother. And without her support, there was no way I could survive.
And you and your brother were so close, Nicholas.
Very close. We never fought each other.
Uncle Nicholas. And the thing is that Dad named his son after his first son.
My brother as Nicholas.
Yeah.
And my brother has his first son. He called him Michael after me.
Yeah.
This is how much we loved each other.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. And looking back on your life now, Dad, are there any sort of things that you would have liked your younger self to know when you were younger? What sort of wisdom, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give younger people maybe growing up now, or a younger version of yourself?
Well, old one, you have to look at the situation when I was a kid. All of my relatives are ignorant or illiterate. And then we are living under poverty line, and there wasn't anybody. The rich people doesn't talk to us because we are poor, and the poor people, just like me, there is nothing to talk to them. But now, after I grow up, I wanted to give some advice to my close relatives, but it didn't work. They start saying that, our uncle, just because he become an engineer, he see himself up somewhere over there, and he's lecturing to us or whatever. Then, of course, I stop giving any advice to anybody, really.
Right. And what have you learned? I mean, coming to Australia, not knowing really English, with 2 suitcases, $300 in your pocket, and starting life.
Well, I was studying very hard, and then I went for 6-week course, English course, remedial course, and from my workplace I get holidays and 6 weeks, and I studied English. I improved my English.
Yeah.
And of course, because where I was working, we were preparing specifications, calling tenders, etc. And I have to write specification from time to time. So I cannot afford making any mistake. And I was extra careful, and I was working very, very hard. Eventually, I succeed. I went all right. It wasn't perfect, but it was all right. And really, I thank God that He gave me the working mind, and I was motivated. And I wanted to adapt to Australia. I wanted my children to grow in Australia, have a good education. And then I want to see them get even better than me. Well, of course, no matter how much we like our children to be, it is not what we want. It is how clever they are and how much they can achieve. But eventually, we were lucky. Our daughter was very clever. Our son was very clever. And both of you finished the uni, and you establish your life very nicely.
And my brother's now an optometrist. He's based in Gosford. He runs Eyes by Design, and has a fantastic life in Gosford. And I live on the Gold Coast and have a media business. So we've done okay for ourselves, and it certainly
He is in Terrigal, next to Gosford, at the seaside.
Yeah. And we're very close. We love our family, and there's not too many of us in Australia, but we are.
Well,
very close.
Our daughter-in-law is Australian, and our sons and daughter-in-law background is entirely different. Despite of that, they have been married for 26 years now. They have 4 children, and they are open-minded. They love and respect one another. So really, that is what we expect all the Australians to do, not only our son, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, the European culture, they
Well, sometimes there are some people discriminate, but well.
Yeah, but I guess everyone's on their own journey there, and we've
right.
always had very close family, even though we had a lot of challenges when I was growing up, right? Like,
look, this happened to any family.
Yeah.
No child grows perfect.
Yeah.
There's ups and downs, but eventually you end up very nicely. Nicholas end up very nicely. And I can't wish anything more than that from God, really.
Yeah. Fantastic. And looking back at your life, how do you feel now about how your life has gone? I mean,
Although at the moment, I think only 2 things. 1, to stay as healthy as I can. 2, to be as happy as I can. And my wife has dementia, so I have to look after her as well. And really, we can stand on our own feet. So I don't care if I have more money or not, but we are living all right, and we are happy, really. We are happy. And my wife has dementia for 9 years now. So what is going to happen, only God knows. But I will look after her as long as I live. And it's as simple as that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Very emotional, Dad. I'm blown away by your story, and it's extraordinary that we're even here sharing it right now, considering what you've been through and all the health challenges. And the stats are that 70% of people who have a heart attack die on the first heart attack, right? You've survived 4, plus pulmonary edema, plus diabetes, plus prostate cancer.
As long as my daughter cares about us, I'm not going to die easily.
And she does, thankfully. So thankfully, I've done a lot of work on myself and got over all the opinions I had of my father when I was growing up. We were both very headstrong, the 2 headstrong Capricorns. We were headbutting a fair bit growing up. However, in some ways that determination, that that headstrongness has brought us both to where we are today. And, you know, once we set our mind to something, we make it happen. And of course, you were the high school champion in table tennis, and it was because of you we all got into table tennis
you see,
too.
at the time, I thought my children has a lot of energy. To break their energy, make them academically good. So I put them in table tennis. At the age of 14, old one become under 15 girls Australian table tennis champion. And then he continued 6 years on the row, under 15, under 17, under 19, under 21, Australian champion. Then she entered Canberra University. Of course, she has to study hard. She cannot turn professional. So from there on, table tennis starts suffering. But she makes us proud. And she represented the country we are living in, our country. So, I mean, she was really talented and she was wonderful. My wife was always going and watching her matches and her training with elite children, and you name it. It was really a wonderful time because I always like to be around my children, to play with them, to talk to them, to educate them, or whatever. And God gave me this opportunity. That's why I work in the government in order to be at home every night and to give my time to my wife and to my children. And I achieved that. It worked very, very well indeed.
And you did some engineering on some pretty big projects in Sydney. What were some of the Sydney projects you worked on as an engineer in Maritime Services Board?
Yes. At the time, there was a coal loader in Balmain. And we extended and upgrade this. And I had a lot of design in it. And after that, I designed number 4 Darling Harbour. It was a row of berth. It cost at the time something like $12 million. And then I was section leader when the number 3 Darling Harbour was designed. And it was my responsibility, but it is designed by the engineers and those person working under me. But the trouble is, these two fantastic works later on by the politician is demolished. They said heavy industry must not be close to the city. So they demolish them and they make a park around Darling Harbour. So anyway, if you are going to demolish it, why not they built it?
Yes, what a waste. But yeah, you worked on some amazing things. My dad's very, very diligent.
That's enough.
And dad needs to run to the toilet now, probably because of the medication.
Oh yes.
But thank you so much, Dad. Is there anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
Thank you very much. That is all. And I wish happiness and health for everyone who is watching us.
Thank you
May
so
God
much.
bless you.
Thank you, Dad. And thank you to those who joined us here on the live. Laura Lawrenson, good to see you both. Thank you. Beautiful Rita Rose, great to see you. Hello, you two beautiful people. Thank you, Michael, for birthing just a beautiful, kind-hearted lady. Thank you, Rita. Blessings to you. I've got your lipstick on, Red Peacock. Love your work and love you, beautiful lady. And your beautiful mum too. Yes, Nellie, we'll give her a big hug. I want to give us both a big hug. I want to give you a hug too, and we will be soon, Rita. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much for joining us live. A little bit of my dad's amazing story, the miracle of life, and so blessed to have such a phenomenal,
thanks to him,
a phenomenal dad and mum, my beautiful parents, 53 years together this year. Yes. Absolutely extraordinary. So blessed. Thank you for watching. And as Gandhi says, be the change you wish to see in the world. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful night. We'll see you again.